scientists. You might be wondering why we're talking about all these different kinds of snow, and that's because it's not just the snow that snows on us whenever it snows. One of the reasons why we just mentioned the lake snow effect is that whenever that large amount of cold air comes in from the top of the United States and mixes with all of that warm southern air, then the air then cools and evaporates and condenses and forms in clouds and creates all of those lake snow effects. But that means that the snow that we get from lake snow effects is a lot more dense. Yes. And in fact, the accumulation rates, that's how much snow it snows when it snows, can be very, very fast and very, very high. Sometimes 6 inches an hour have been measured in the Great Lakes regions, within a 24-hour total reaching 76 inches or more. 6 feet of snow in one day is a lot of snow, and that's why we have to be wary of blizzards or lake effect snows. But it's also why we have to worry about something called an avalanche. That's when snow falls down a mountain, but because it's falling down the mountain at such a fast pace and with such tremendous strength, it takes whatever was with the snow on the mountain down with it. That can include rocks and ice and even people if they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You see, avalanches occur when the bonds or layers of snow become very, very weak. And that means that a snow avalanche begins when an unstable mass of snow breaks away from a slope. That's usually because you've had a lot of snow in a little bit of time and it hasn't had a chance to pack into the other layers. The snow then picks up speed and it whoosh, moves downhill, producing a river of snow and clouds of ice particles that rise high into the air. And the moving mass then picks up even more snow as it momentums downhill until a large, fully developed avalanche can weigh as much as 1,000,000 tons. Well, how much is that, mad scientists? It's enough to crush entire homes, which is why when there are avalanche conditions, not just avalanches, people have to be very wary and will sometimes have to move out of their homes for days or even weeks until they can make sure that a blizzard or a winter storm has gone by and their homes are safe again. I know it's kind of scary to talk about an avalanche, but would you like to make an avalanche? Oh, good, because I found some materials in the lab that you and I might be able to use to make an avalanche right now. Here we go. Hey, mad scientists. We are going to be cooking up something in our lab kitchen today. No. It's not something that you would usually associate with the ingredients that I have in front of me. Instead, we are going to make an avalanche. Now, in order to help me along while you want to make your avalanche at home, you might need some of the following supplies. Number one, you're going to need a tray, or at least a flat surface. Next thing, I'm going to use some foil. I've also got some Epsom salts. Then I've got some all-purpose flour. And it looks like I've got some salt, some sugar, some rocks, and I'm also going to use some glue. Now my first step is to put that layer of foil down on my tray. I'm going to test to see if it works by tilting the tray like this. And if the foil doesn't slide off, then I know it'll be just fine. After that, I'm going to open my bag of rocks and I'm going to take out a handful. It looks like I've got about 6, 7, or 8 of them. Now, I'm going to create kind of a pinball field by taking my glue and putting about 6, 7, or 8 dots on that tray like this. Now you might wonder why I'm doing that, and it's because I want to create a kind of field for all of my snow to fall down whenever I create my avalanche in just a few moments. Something tells me that that bottom one might fall with the rest of my snow, which is okay, because believe it or not, that happens all the time when it comes to snow. Now I'm gonna take a little bit of Epsom salts. I've got a strainer like this to help me, but if you're careful, you might not need a strainer. Instead, you can just use your hands, but the important thing is to make sure that you get an even amount of snow all over your tray or your cardboard box. There we go. Now, I'm gonna put down some flour. That's gonna be our second layer of snow. Notice that whenever we spoke about blizzards, we spoke about the fact that oftentimes blizzards occur because layers of snow get added on top of each other very, very quickly and very, very heavily over a long period of time. So I'm going to steep another layer of snow there. Now, I've got two choices here, and I'm going to need your help to make a decision. Which do you think is coarser? Iodized salt or sugar? Iodized salt. Okay, you're right. It does sound a little bit rockier. So, there we go. I'll put a couple of rocks down at the bottom. Finally, sugar. Now, here comes the fun part, mad scientists, because what I'm going to try to do is create an avalanche, but I want to create it in a very scientific way. So I'm going to take these books off the top, and I'm going to tilt. See? No avalanche yet. Here's my secret piece of equipment. It's called a protractor. So I can measure that it looks like we've only got about a 17 incline or angle on our mountain right now. So that means it's a very gentle slope. Let's add a second book. Okay, that's at about a 30-degree angle. You might have noticed as I was kind of tilting that some of the snow on the top started to fall down. Let's add a third book to see what happens. Okay, yeah, that's at about a 35-degree angle. So let's see what happens if we add all of these. That's gonna be about a 45 to 50-degree angle, mad scientists. Oh! Avalanche, mad scientists. And look, the rocks that we put at the very tippy top of our mountain are now at the bottom, and there's very little snow left over on my tray. So what does that tell us, mad scientists? Well, the science behind this is that because snow during blizzards or even especially harsh winter storms fall in layers, there's a lot of stress from the pull of gravity, especially when the higher or later snowfalls are heavier than the earlier snowfalls. And also because oftentimes the lower snowfall layers have more ice in them because they've been hit by the sun and then refrozen, creating kind of a slippy slide like we see in my foil. But did you notice, mad scientists, that here in the lab, it took a nearly 50-degree angle for the snow to fall? But can you guess what the minimum angle should be to create a blizzard avalanche? It's 25 degrees. That's right, mad scientists. It only takes a 25-degree angle to turn this into that, which is why we have to be very cautious whenever we're around all kinds of winter weather. Mad scientists! We've had a lot of fun and we've made a big mess in the lab today, so let me ask you a couple of questions. Number one, did you learn anything today?
Yes!
Oh, good! because I had so much fun helping you learn. Because today we learned about how the water cycle, especially the water cycle using moist vapor and cold atmospheric air, can create snow pellets, snowflakes, and even, that's right, you remembered, sleet. But also we remembered that a snowstorm that lasts for more than 3 hours and sometimes several days is called a blizzard. And the snow accumulation from a blizzard can reach more than 75 inches. We also learned that whenever snow packs itself in layers on steep inclines, such as the side of mountains, it can create an avalanche strong enough to destroy people's homes. Well, last question, mad scientists. Did you have fun today?
Yes!
Good. I had a blast helping you blast some snow. And I can't wait to see you in my mad science lab again. But in the meantime, stay smart, stay safe, and have fun.